Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So the agenda items are, there are only three. Call to order, review of the proposed ASCMV fiscal year 2021 budget, and adjournment. So Clint, will you be doing the presentation?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
of note, we did have we have one individual send in some email questions. However, they were not about the budget. They were comments of why pictures are not being done on animals anymore. Why has our Facebook response been limited? So I don't know if you want a period for question and answer, or if you want to reserve that time for a regular board meeting next week. Either way, I have questions, but it's, yeah.
Well, why don't you go ahead and answer those questions now? And I'm sure they're going to be short.
Do you want me to do them right now? So there were ASCMV announced last week that the adoption procedure is being fact. Since I keep track of online posts of volunteers, some examples of the pictures or before and after cats within a week of their adoption or a week of intake. A review of all photos online to ensure that all animals have glamour shots uploaded. So per recommended attorney, volunteers have actually been center. So we do our best to, and because volunteers were the ones that were coming in and doing shots with the the nice background. And it's done, we are doing the social distancing as possible. So that's why those quality than they usually are. Question number 2. These are not posted on a regular basis at the ASCMV Facebook page. Lately, the Pet of the Week posts have been posted by Doña Ana County Government Center Facebook page. What's the explanation for this? The explanation is I have always seen our Facebook Pet of the Week posted on our Facebook page. It may be a day or two late, but they are always on there. When the individual who's responsible for that sends it out, he sends it out to all the places that have requested it. So Doña Ana County, I know the city of Las Cruces receives it from their PIO there. The Las Cruces Times, Sun News, all of these places receive it all at the same time. I could do a better job of making sure that it gets posted on our Facebook page on the same day. Do that. Number 3 question. The state mandated social distancing guidelines and the modification of the shelter's hours calls for creative ways for the public to get involved with fostering and adopting. I can't help but compare the ASCMV Facebook page with the El Paso Animal Services Facebook page. Their page has videos and photos of their employees asking the community to help them out during this crisis, and the community responded. They received 400, they say, of foster applications, 101 day, March 24th, 2020 alone. And per their April 10th, 2020 post, they have 12,000 animals in foster home, or 1,200 animals in foster homes. Their April 9th, 2020 post stated that 75% of their animals are in foster homes, bringing the total pets they have at the shelter to 350. This is a considerable reduction from thousands plus pets before the crisis. El Paso also introduced virtual and home delivery, adoption, and foster counseling, as well as pet reclaims. Now that is creative. Please look at El Paso's Facebook page and you'll see how they're able to engage the community. Their videos are also fun and informative. They also have videos of their pets, which capture their personalities. I'm very disappointed in ASCMV's social media presence these past few weeks. There is no presence at all, and there is no community engagement. The posts are boring, daily stats. And while the posts announcing the transfer of animals to rescue are great news, other than that, the Facebook is pretty blah. So they don't post a question on that. I will tell you that to compare us to El Paso is not apples to apples. They have a budget that's about 3 or 4 times more than ours. And that includes a person specifically in charge of their media. And I happen to know that she is a used to be a news anchor woman, so she has considerable experience there. There's no way that we can keep up with that. However, with things that we have coming on in our new budget, we hope to increase those presence on there, such as the new foster coordinator. Our new volunteer coordinator is also doing great things. Our adoption coordinators are doing great things as well. And so we are continuing to have that Facebook presence. Our numbers are down incredibly low as well. We have gone, right now, we would be in the 500s for our animal population, and we're currently in the very low hundreds. I think it was 211 last time, or one of the posts here just the last couple of days. That is phenomenally low, and we're very excited about that. We've also had a large increase in fosters coming in and wanting to take these animals out of our hands. So could we have done a better job saying, help us? Yes, we could have. But with that said, we are getting as much help or we're getting enough help that it's keeping us very busy on those things. So we're excited for that. All right, number 4, I believe it was in 2019 when El Paso Fire Department started offering free chip scans of found pets. This is an excellent service provided by El Paso, especially during the current crisis when the shelter is closed and the vets are only doing emergency procedures. Can the ASCMV shelter board get together with Las Cruces Fire Department and get this program going here in Las Cruces? I have talked to Chief Enrique several times about this. It's an issue of having the correct chip, and then what to do with the chip, or what to do with the chip information afterwards. The scanners are expensive. We're talking $750, $800 each. And it's just a matter of funding that project where it could go. And also I know Chief's worry was, when I talked to him about it, are the people expecting these animals to stay at the fire department until they can get the information, or till the owners can come and get the information? And what if when they track the information, the owners and then they said they're on their way, but the person has to run? I mean, there's a lot of back and forth about it. Do I think it's a great service that we could do? Yeah, we could be able to do that. There's no reason why we couldn't provide that service. Money and the funding needs to be found there. Number 5, I also monitor the Las Cruces Lost and Found Facebook page and came across 2 instances that last month wherein 2 cats were caught by animal control officer and brought into the shelter. The 2 cats were thought to be feral and were euthanized at the shelter the same day. When the owners came in to reclaim them, they were told they were euthanized and they were very upset. I thought that the shelter was supposed to hold an animal that has no chip or tag for 3 days, 5 if it has a chip or tag, to give the owner a chance to reclaim them. The owners claim this did not happen. Why euthanize a cat that looks feral right away? Why not wait until the 4th or 6th day? It's understandable that a cat will act feral if it's scared. I think one of the cats was caught on a rainy day and the photos show the cat all wet, dirty, and scared. Please comment on this current procedure. So as they stated there, they were city cats, and the animal ordinance of the city specifically states that if it's a feral cat and there's overcrowding at the shelter, that the animal can be euthanized prior to the 3-day hold coming up. So I only know of one instance that we had that happen. I don't know about the other one that they're saying. So but that's why it occurs. At that time, we were at limit, and animals were piling up. And if we have feral cats that need to be euthanized, then unfortunately we don't have the liberty or the availability to say, hold on, wait. So we need to make space for the animals that continue to come in. Number 6, speaking of Facebook pages, there are 2 links on the ASCMV page under the heading Lost and Found Information. One was for Dog Cruces, which works. The other is for Lost and Found Pets, Las Cruces, which upon clicking on the hyperlink takes me to a page which isn't available. Please fix this. So I'll look into it and get it fixed. Those are the questions from that individual. He says, thank you for taking the time to read this lengthy email. I look forward to seeing these addressed at the meeting. I'll be watching the session online.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Clint, for doing that. So we'll move on now. Would you like to, are you ready to do the presentation at this point? The budget?
Yes, ma'am. We are ready.
Thank you. Proceed.
I'm going to share my screen. You can see this is the same PowerPoint slide that we had for our second. Let me know when you guys have it there.
It's up. I have it.
If you remember in our first meeting that we had for our work session, it was in the council chambers, and there was some great feedback that was given to us. We said we would make some changes to our presentation and then come back to it. That's what we did on the second one. On the second work session meeting, there were some issues on getting people or letting the public know about it in time, et cetera. So we thought, let's just do this correct and not take any chances. So that brings us here to the third work session that we're meeting at now. So some of this we're going to just go through a little bit quicker than others. However, some of it we're going to be taking some considerable time because the board wanted to get into the weeds of where we were at in 2020, where we want to be in 21, what are the differences, and Mr. Sanchez, there is plenty of math for you to check and look at. So we are ready to move forward on that one. So the agenda that's going to be going forward, just a quick overview of some of our positions, authorized position, our operating budget. We'll go under the revenue and the expenses, and then some capital improvement budget, the new building coming up. So first of all, our organization. I would like to thank Councilor Gondra for her input on the new position that we wanted to create, that we said shelter manager, and she brought to light and reminded me that we're really trying to change things and be positive about it and not refer to the center as a shelter, but really a center where people go as a resource. So we changed the name of that position to operations manager. And we're going to get more into in the next few slides about the changes in names and what that means for some of the people that currently have those positions, because operations manager is actually currently Bernice's title, but we'll get into that change later. So as you can see from this org chart, operation manager will really be over the main operations here at the center on a daily basis. And then we have our medical director and her employees, and then the administrative service manager, which is Bernice. That's will be her new title, and she'll still be over the office and the office assistants. And then there's that admin support assistants that was recommended also by the board. We have 3 of those, so 3 employees are going to be doing part of their time as front office staff, part-time as some administrative support assistants, helping each manager in their area with some of the tasks that is assigned to them. And that was also a great idea from the board that we took and put into our budget. This graph shows the authorized number of employees, how many are filled, and then of those authorized, how many are full-time and part-time, and then the current vacancy. So luckily for me, there's 1 director and it's currently filled. The medical director has 11 spots. Of those 11, they're all full-time. 8 of them are filled, so that means it has a vacancy of 3 right now. Operations manager, which is the new position we're calling it, there's 37 positions there. Of that 37, 27 full-time, 10 part-time, and the vacancy of 6. The animal services manager, which is currently Bernice, she's authorized to have 14 employees, 9 of those full-time, 5 are part-time. So the 4 vacancies there. We did put in a vacancy rate for each one of these, because never at one time are we going to have everybody staffed for the whole entire year, all vacancies filled. There's always some turnover. So we factored in some vacancy rate that will help us in our budget and more fiscal responsible. This graph is showing, I really like this one because it's showing the position changes. When you hear me talk a lot, I'm saying new position here, new position there. What this graph shows is actually there's only one truly new position we are adding to our facility. The rest are reclassifications. So I'm going to go over those really quick. The very first one is our veterinarian is the title. I believe it was either Chair Flores or Councilor Gondola that mentioned if you need a new veterinarian or if you need a veterinarian, put a veterinarian in. It sounds like your medical director is swamped. She doesn't have time to care for the population of the center. Let's get a veterinarian that can do those surgeries so our medical director can focus. And we took that to heart. We included in this revised budget, we included a veterinarian position. So that is the only new position that is added. The rest, again, a reclass. We currently have a certified veterinarian technician. However, her title currently is veterinarian assistant. Our medical director, Dr. Haddon, feels that if we were to reclass this as a veterinarian technician, that would not only give this individual a reason to be classified or a reason to be certified as a certified technician, but also recognize the hard work that it takes to get to that point. And we can also fill it with another certified vet technician if our current certified vet technician was to leave. And that's the purpose for that reclass. The next one is a kennel population supervisor. It's currently a very odd term that we don't really know. I'm sure back in the day we needed to have a population supervisor, but right now we don't really go off of our numbers. It's more of a capacity to care. So we're doing away with that title, not the position, but the title, and we're changing the position to the operations manager. And that's that new position you've heard me say oftentimes. And then we're taking our current kennel population supervisor, Curtis Herring. He will fall into the assistant kennel supervisor position. That position was vacated by Jordan Flores when she moved in December. So that's an open position that currently has. So just some switching around and changing titles. We currently have an animal groomer position. This position's been funded for years and years, but an animal groomer was really hard to keep on staff. So we're changing that title because we have volunteers and employees and also people in the general public that come forth and say, hey, I'd love to groom for you. So we don't see the need for a groomer, but we like to take that position and change it into a grant writer position. This was also recommended by the board the last time we met. And we felt that was a great idea to take advantage because I get grants all the time, like sent to me by email, but being as busy as I am, I'm not able to get to them with as much detail as I'd like to. So having a grant writer would be invaluable, would be amazing. And then, so that's just a reclassification. We also have another admin operations manager. Again, that's changing Bernice's title to admin services manager. I think the services manager is more in line with what she does, taking care of the billing for not only for the cities that we service, but also for the bills that come in and paying the invoices that come through. And then we've also always had a records clerk. And we feel that title, they do mostly the request for information that come through. And currently Bernice has been handling that and feels like she can continue to. So we're going to reclassify that position as a foster coordinator. Where right now we have a person doing foster coordinator job. It's just kind of been assigned to her. She's doing a phenomenal job. However, she only does it part-time and then she works at the front office part-time. So we need somebody to focus on these incredible people that are coming in, giving of their time and effort to foster these animals. They deserve the attention of a single individual that can answer their questions and help them be more successful. Because a successful foster brings in more fosters. So this slide is showing where we've been and where we're going into. In the fiscal year that we're currently in, we have 2.8 million for our operating revenue, and we want to change that to the fiscal year 21 to the $4 million revenue. And that's showing a 42.4% increase. And we're going to go into the weeds of how we do that. Are there any questions so far?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Sanchez. So, hey, Clint, this is Commissioner Sanchez. I just had a question in terms of the grant writer position.
Yeah.
Is there no way to utilize the city's contract with Insight to maybe help with that, rather than having to hire a grant writer of your own?
I know I have not looked into the part of utilizing that company. I just know that in the past I've been told the grant writers they have on staff at the city will only help me find grants, not help me write them, but I have not pursued the company that they work with.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if there might be that opportunity to leverage that relationship at all.
Mr. Dallahan, what do you think?
David? He must have stepped away.
No, I was
Cassandra,
unmuting.
do you? Oh, I'm sorry. David, are you there?
Yeah, the ASCMV could always piggyback on that contract. I think the county is doing that with Insight. The city, I believe, our contract with Insight is up this August, and we're looking to change the scope of how we do that. My understanding is that we were going to identify grant applications ourselves and procure them on a per application basis for some of the more bigger and more difficult ones. That's their specialty. You're talking multi-million-dollar grants from the federal government. So Insight may not be the most effective tool for ASCMV, because a lot of the grants that I see are smaller level that are ASCMV would be eligible for.
Yeah, most of our grants we're looking at are single or double digits. Yeah.
Okay, and I just thought I'd ask, the county just recently signed an agreement with Insight, so this is going to be our first experience with them, or at least mine, and so that's where I know that the city has had some experience, so I appreciate having that. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, to continue on, so our operating revenue, some of our changes, and this is where.
Can I just add a few things?
Yeah.
Sorry, Clint.
No, you're fine.
I had my hand up, but I think.
I somehow I don't see.
Go into the participants, hit
Yeah.
it, and you'll see all of it listed
It's
there.
right in the middle of my screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of gets in the way of my looking at the budget, but okay. No one.
It does that when you have it full screen. So now if you minimize, it should move it over to the right.
Minimize my.
Or just get out of full screen.
Oh, exit full screen.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you. You geniuses, you.
So if I may, Madam Chair, Insight has been very insightful having them on. They've helped us, really sort of focus and build capacity. And that really was what it was. They have helped, and David could speak more to it, but it's someone that we contract to help get larger funding streams, but it feels like a lot of the work continues to be done by our grant writers, and they're very few and far. There are 2 or 3, I think 3 currently. So Manny, they're assisting our current staff in, again, building capacity and moving forward. So I don't ever, I don't, these little funding opportunities, I mean, I don't know, Insight can help do the research probably and suggest which bigger grants, if any, are available. I'm not sure that that even exists for the animal world. But if it does, Insight could probably help us through that. I still feel that having a grant writer specific to our organization is most impactful in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. And the bit that I know about grant writing is that it's really a work of art, and people have to be really focused on the source of the grant, and it's going to vary insofar as what different grantors are looking for. So it seems to me that you would want to have someone on behalf of the animal shelter to be looking for these grants and knowing exactly how to go about them. I know that much about grant writing. So I think that your recommendation, Clint, is very important. Thank you.
Clint,
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Clint, in regard to the grant writer, have you guys been reaching out for one right now, or just talking about it?
We have reached out. We put on Facebook request anybody's interested, and nobody's come forward. I know we have a volunteer who does grant writing professionally. However, they at this time are not able to assist us.
How much are you looking at to getting one? How much the cost? Do you think? How much do you think you may be paying for one? Yeah.
30,000 minimum salary.
Yeah, we're looking around 30,000 minimum.
30.
Would this be a full-time position, Clint?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's 30,000 with benefits?
With benefits and everything, right? Clint?
Is that-
Or just
is that-
the grant writing itself?
I'm
Is that-
sorry.
Full-time with,
Yeah, it would be 30,000 plus benefits.
Plus benefits.
and is that full-time?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Clint? Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Gonzalez?
Clint? I heard that you were talking.
74% increase on vaccinations, and that's because of our vaccine clinics that we want to continue to do. Hopefully this COVID-19 will clear up and we'll be able to start to do those in August, September time, and really start showing that revenue coming in from those. The pet microchips, it was a trend to decrease by 24%. However, at the vaccine clinics, we also offer microchipping, and we do fairly well there. So I'm sure that those pet microchips will be included in that. The on-site adoptions show a trend of going up 9%. And then this is an odd phenomenon, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it, but the DAC RTO stands for Doña Ana County Return to Owner. And that is animal owners coming to the center and getting their animals. So we show the trend is that it's going to go up by $5,000 for Doña Ana County. However, for the city, it's going to go down about $3,000. I don't know where we're at with that as far as understanding that trend, but I look forward to this year to see if the numbers continue that way for that. Spay and neuter, we decreased 26%. The reason because this is, yes, we are requesting another veterinarian. However, we don't have any recovery space for these animals. Board members that have been here to the center have seen that we have a hallway that we utilize for our recovery area of animals in cages. And Once the new shelter is completed and we're able to shift our resources around, and that means emptying some offices and making some kennels or some other offices into recovery areas, then we can start doing more surgical suites and more surgeries, and again, open those up, spay and neuter to the public. Spay and neuters is our ultimate goal, to continue to do that. Animal shelter services to go down 36%. We're really limiting these. These are basically services that the shelter provides, like a dead animal disposal or euthanasias, or owner surrender euthanasias, and owner surrenders. So we really, the trend shows that those are going down as well. And then the next two items, the Doña Ana County DAC support, we are asking for an increase of 48%. So going from 1.25 to 1.86. And that's for Doña Ana County. And the next page is also for the city of Las Cruces, the same amount. Because the JPA says that the city and the county both they have to do the same amount. The city of Anthony, Solomon Park, and Village Hatch, these are fees that we get from them, whatever they impound. And those numbers fluctuate quite a bit as far as year to year is impounds. So we're not sure of what, or of changing those. So we kept them the same for our revenue. The donations and memorials, that's a trend that's going up. So we budgeted accordingly. Other revenues, this is everything other than what we've just talked about goes into other. And then the state grants and local grants, we are really pushing hard to get those, especially with the availability for the COVID-19 grants to help with our foster programs. We look forward to those. This key revenue impact slide, I'm going to turn over to our analysis, Mike Fucini, and he can talk to you about that one.
Good afternoon, all. This is Mike Fucini. This slide is nothing more than a summary of revenue contributions by the center itself and the two primary contributions coming from the city of Las Cruces and the county. As you can see, and Clint mentioned previous slide, the amount requested of both the city and county has gone from 1.25 to 1.86. And with the addition of what the center is going to contribute in the way of revenue, raising revenue for fiscal year 21, which is about 336,000. Those three components sum to the almost $4.1 million, which is a little higher than previous year of 2.8 million. And this slide just shows you the relative percentage in change in the contribution of each. As you can see, if we look at the 4 million as a total, sum total, 46% will be contributed to by the city and the county, and 8% contribution by the center's operations. So it's nothing more than a summary slide of what Clint has provided you in a way of detail for each of those accounts or line items to show in kind of the 30,000 feet above viewpoint. This is where the contributions will be made to raise the funds that we're looking for our operations in fiscal year 21.
Okay, Madam Chair, are there any questions?
Are there any questions, board? No questions whatsoever?
Oh, Chair, this is Commissioner Sanchez.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner Sanchez.
Clint, I just had a question, and I guess I don't know if this is the time to pose this concern, but I know given the current pandemic, the county's already received guidance from DFA that given that we don't exactly know where our GRT is going to fall the remainder of this fiscal year and what we're going to be looking at for the next fiscal year, that we submit basically our current year budget for next year's budget. And if that was the case, I don't know, and we really don't know kind of where the GRTs are still going to be until we get until, you know, July, August timeframe. So I guess I myself have some concerns that we would be able to support such a large increase, or an increase at the moment, going into the next fiscal year.
Well, yeah, according to the Joint Powers Agreement, the JPA, the city and county have to do the same amount going in. So if you were to reduce, and the city would also have to reduce. So what would that do to us? That would change our entire budget and how we are going to be moving forward. We are not able to set a budget up, you know, and say, how's that going to affect us come July? And then if it doesn't affect us at all, then we'll be sitting just like we are now. There has to be some change because of the shortfall that we had of our budget for the positions not being funded. That would be detrimental to the center if that was to happen.
Mr. Sanchez, is
Yeah.
what you've stated, is that definitive, or is that just something that you think is coming down the pipeline, and has it been discussed either way?
It's, I can't say, hasn't been decided by the board yet. We're still going through the process, but I think there, at least the discussion is kind of leaning towards that right now, just because we don't have any, we still don't have any understanding of where, at least in terms of the deadlines we have to submit to DFA, there's just a lot of concern that we won't know where exactly, how to properly project what our revenues will be going into next year. So I think, like I said, hasn't been decided, but I believe we're leaning in that direction. But it'll be something that we'll have to discuss as the whole Board of County Commissioners.
Well, when do you review your budget for prospective changes?
We had planned to do it during April. So we'll probably have at least some discussion on it at our next county commission meeting on the 28th of this month.
So I really don't know how this works. So, and I don't know, Mr. Ellens isn't present. Maybe Commissioner Gonzalez can shed some light on how the county sets their budget and what they take into account. Because as Clint said, as Mr. Thacker stated, it placed an awful burden on the shelter, and they wouldn't be able to go forward. And this is all, of course, prospective, but it's based on past patterns, you know. So it really troubles me to think that the county wouldn't be able to come in with its match that the city would be able to contribute.
And Madam Chair, I would ask, and I don't know if you had discussions yet on for your budget, because
Yes.
I haven't, like I said, that we started originally going down that planning process prior to the pandemic and hitting our area here. So once that came in, it's totally changed, I guess, just because of the just not having a good understanding of how that's going to affect our revenues.
Well, we did on our work session the day before yesterday. We covered our prospective budget, and it was prepared prior to the COVID pandemic and its implications. Notwithstanding, we're moving forward with it because it appears that the impact will be felt the next fiscal year, and we go from our fiscal year begins on July 1. So, and goes on to June 30 of 2021. So the fiscal year for the animal shelter is actually goes on the calendar year. It doesn't, you go on the same, you go on the same fiscal year?
Same as the city, yes, ma'am.
Okay, what about then, is it the county who's on a calendar year? No, you're also on the, okay.
We're also, yeah, we're also on the same
Thank you.
fiscal.
Okay, so it seems to me that the budget should already be prepared at the county.
Well, like I said, that we had been working on the budget as if prior to the pandemic, but given, I think that's when talking with County Manager Macias, and I guess his conversations with DFA, that's where he's had some conversations, I know with myself around that very thing, is that DFA had provided this guidance. I don't know if to the counties, I'd assume to all entities across the state, in terms of how to possibly proceed without knowing the impact. So, we obviously a large portion of our income will come, or our revenues will be from the gross receipts tax. And like I said, if it was a normal year, we'd be in the process right now of having all those discussions and submitting the preliminary budget, I believe at the beginning of May. But we haven't had any of those discussions, because I think that's where I think the intent is to submit the same budget as we had this year. So basically a flat budget going into 2021. And then looking at the next, in the middle of the year, or at least after the first quarter, to determine if we were going to do any budget changes at that point.
Mr. Dollahan, can you shed any light on this discussion as to COVID has impacted and GRT monies, and we all know that's going to be impacted negatively, but how can we move forward?
Madam Chair, there has been some guidance issued by the state, I believe, to one option available to both the city and the county is to adopt the same budget as last year, or a flat budget. That is well allowed by state law. The city is proceeding based on estimates that we have. The county has a little different timing, though their budget is July 1 to June 30th. The state has municipalities submit their budgets before the counties do. And state doesn't approve the county's budget, if I understand it, until almost August, though we usually get ours around the 1st of July. So there's always some suspect as to whether the state's going to approve the county's budget. One option available to us is making a request to increase the budget, but holding a flat line budget and starting July 1, and then come into the first quarter, and then request the city and the county to review and evaluate an increase proportionally to one another. We've reserved for the city. We've presented our preliminary budget. We're going to be making changes before it gets adopted by City Council in May for a July 1 start date. The other thing that could happen is that we could adopt it in May and then making revisions in June, July, August, as this target that we're looking at right now is ever changing. So it's not easy. It's not pleasant. The city's already budgeted a $500,000 increase in its preliminary budget to you, but the JPA requires a match. The city could provide that and just hold it in abeyance until such time as the county meets its match, or we could adjust the budget downward. It's an ever-changing moving target everywhere. So it's not just us. The city's more comfortable. We have a double reserve fund. So we would need to look at ASCMV as to where they can make adjustments in their budgets, both revenue and sharing from the city and the county, to kind of hold it flat, and making adjustments where they can expend where they need to and where they don't have to expend as soon or as early. It's going to be tough, but I think we could all do it.
And Madam Chair, what
Yes,
or at least what I would recommend for now is for us to continue on with this conversation with what we have now, or at least for this presentation. And then maybe if, as we continue on having some discussions, at least in the county, we can then broach that topic even more as to where we think we're really going to be. But at least for now, not to derail this conversation fully, I would just recommend that maybe we continue on with what we have, with what Mr. Thacker has right now.
so review it, continue with the review of the proposed budget, and then we'll make adjustments down the road because they will have to be made.
That would be my suggestion for now. And I think at least, I just wanted to at least bring it up in the case that that's where we're going to be in the county in the future. So that might be, like I said, is something we look at here going forward, but at least wanted to bring that subject up. And that way, once whatever decision we do make in the county, I didn't want to blindside anybody any more than I am now.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Thank you. Cassandra, Mayor Pro Tem.
Chair? Madam Chair?
Yes. Mhm.
Clint, could you go back to the slide that you were making? It shows fiscal year 20, 21, all the various listing of other item. I've got confused with, is that slide 8?
The one that shows you up and down?
Or 7, where you listed the city and the county and had some explanation, but I got confused. I wasn't sure. I felt. One more.
I had to unmute me first. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
All right. Go back here. And it was,
Yeah. Page 8. Oh, page 13. We're not even there yet.
was the operating revenue. So right here, the city of Las Cruces support.
No, the one
I
before,
think
it
it
had
was
to
on
do
page 8.
with it had to do with return to owners.
This one right here, screen 7.
Yeah. I felt like there was some talk of code and I wasn't sure. It felt a little uncomfortable. Am I on the right track? I didn't really understand DAC RTO and CSC RTO. One was up and the other's down.
Yeah, there was no code. It was just, I don't know how to interpret those, how one has gone up 50%, like we're expecting a 53% increase in Doña County owners coming and getting their animals. And we're expecting almost a 10% drop in the city of Las Cruces coming and getting their animals. I don't know what the explanation for that. That's the trend that we're seeing. And so we budgeted according to the trend.
So that,
but
so does that mean, I guess, what we have been seeing throughout the year, a decrease in the city of Las Cruces return to owner? That's how I am interpreting that. Is that correct?
it could be with, because I know Doña County does more return to owners in the field, which means animals from county coming in.
Right.
But if I remember right, in the 2019 report, the city and Doña County, they were right neck and neck.
Close neck to neck, yeah.
In fact, I can get you that number.
And Councilor Gondar, with Councilor Flores' permission, may I ask a quick question?
Of course. Go ahead, David.
You'll have to remember on the return to owner, both the county and the city animal control officers do their own field return to owner. and they charge the person a fee in the field. This Doñana County and CLC return to owner is the fee that the service center charges when the animal is picked up by anybody, dropped off at the center, and then the owner comes to reclaim. That's a trend analysis. That's how Clinton did their budget. But you'll need to remember that the Animal Service Center during this year's budget amended the fee for the return to owner fee. I think we upped it to $20. And then there's right, Clint? Plus the sheltering fees.
Yeah, we changed it to be a flat rate instead of the floating rate of number of impounds brought in. But what I was getting at though is that if Doñana County does more RTOs in the field, that's less animals coming in, which is less money revenue on my side.
Right, exactly. So I don't know that we'll be able to accurately trend those two numbers also in light of our flattening of the fee.
Gotcha.
So what I'm hearing, just to get it straight in my head, is this particular item is when people come to the center to pick up their animal. And
Correct.
what codes is doing as well?
No, this is only animals being redeemed by their owners here at the center.
Got it. Okay. Okay. All right.
So I have a question. So I thought I understood that the RTOs for the city are the ones that are returned to the shelter, but that DAC does more of the picking of animals and then they return them. And so those aren't seen as the numbers, and that accounts for the higher percentage?
Well, we're only getting revenue if the animal comes here to the center.
Right. But the DAC RTO doesn't go to the center necessarily, is that correct?
Doñana County does more, well,
They return directly to the owner.
yes, but so does the city when possible and you have to remember Doñana County considers an RTO, they define it differently the city does.
So that's why perhaps it's so skewed. I mean, that's why, one is so high and one is so low. That might explain it. It isn't apples to apples, really.
So is there something that we can, sorry, Madam Chair, can I?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So is there something that we can do to mirror the definitions to make them more similar so that we are comparing apples to apples? Is that part of it?
That would be a conversation you'd need to have with the ACO supervisors. Because I know the city does not like to let animals go back if they don't have somebody there responsible or the right age, over 18, to care for the animal. But Doñana County is more relaxed. They'll say, put the dog back in your yard, or if they follow a dog back to the yard, they'll close the gate.
Or not.
Go. So that's a conversation you need to have with both the supervisors there.
David, Mr. Dahlhan, can we have that discussion? I'm assuming there's some liability I've heard before, but it doesn't make sense, especially now. We need to do as much as we can to get these animals back to their owner.
Madam Chair, Board Member Gondra, I agree with you. There are operational differences in the city and the county for specific reasons. The city is a more urban area, has more traffic. We don't want to be
David, we lost you.
Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry. There are operational differences between city and county animal control for very good reasons. They're both good practices. They're not ideal. It's not a perfect situation. Even Clint will disagree with them. The city, because it's an urban environment, our animal control officers don't chase animals home. The county animal control officers will tell you that if you catch a dog, primarily it's a dog, and I've seen this, you can tell a dog to go home or chase that dog home and they will work to go home. You don't want to do that in the city's environment because it leads to potential traffic hazards, dog running out into traffic. The county being such a bigger area is they're also willing to try to put the dog or the animal back in the yard, and hopefully it will stay there. City animal control does not. They want a responsible adult that can demonstrate that they can keep the animal in their yard, because it only leads, if they can't demonstrate it, it just means the animal is going to get out again. That is a valid discussion I think you can have at your board meeting with both animal control supervisors there. It's just a different practice. Not perfect, not ideal, but it's something that you can have at the board meeting, and you could also go into a work session on.
Well, and I agree. I'm going to look to Clint and others for best practices. We're not the only community that has this sort of urban versus rural setting, and we have to see what is being done in other communities or jurisdictions that will help, because at the end of the day, we are still trying to reduce the population at the center, right? And do it in the most responsible way possible, meeting all our markers or metrics, if you will. So, okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. Any other questions at this point? Mr. Thacker, would you wish to continue, or do you want to go home?
Well, my question is Mike just told me, is how much of a commitment or funding are we looking at? Is it worth moving forward and going down all into the weeds? Because we're almost half done and we've already been here for an hour. Is this something that the funding isn't going to be there to do this, and we need to come back and talk about it in our financial committee and see where the money's going to be? Because that means I'll need to cut programs and cut possibly positions, etc. Or do you want me to continue forward with?
Mr. Dollahan, that's a very good question, Clint, because what it prompted, and Mr. Dollahan and Mayor Pro Tem, if you could, or anybody who might have a better handle on this. My understanding is that funding will come in from the feds, and other monies potentially will be coming in as a result of COVID. And I'm thinking that if we keep our budget items the way we would like to have them, we may be able to get some of this money, I don't know, from the disaster funds through CARES or FEMA or something.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. If we're not going to get this, we need to go back and do some cutting, some pretty heavy duty cutting. I can tell you that there needs to be some type of increase at the very least, because we had positions that were unfunded, and I've said that before.
Correct.
So I can't just present it to you last month or last year's budget and say do this. So there's going to be an increase. I need to. Mike is behind me beating his drum that we need to have a number that we can cut to.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I would like to hear from you what you are anticipating. I think there's going to need to be a conversation, Clint, with you and the David, our management, our county delegation, to see where is it possible to have the increase? And if it's not, where do if it's just flat, like you've anticipated? Because we are looking towards, we met Monday, we have our economist, Dr. Paredes, that has done a lot of research and work with DFA and others, and has really given us where we think we're going to be with the numbers, from to month. And almost like a 19% decrease is what I remember. Councilor Flores and David, please correct me if I'm wrong, at the end of the day of our GRT happening, I want to say September-ish. I don't know why I think that, but
Yeah, that was it.
and so we need to have some projections as well. I don't think but I'd like to hear what that is, and I would recommend that you go back and have a second meeting with the powers that be, the management, administration on both sides, to see what that's going to look like, if it means going back to, but at the end of the day, we approved that on both sides, county and city.
Okay, I'm on. Awesome.
If I remember right, this needs to happen very quickly, and David can chime in here anytime, because the city, I think, needs to have it by, was it mid-May? That's because that's what the plan was.
Yeah.
Was this corrected and get this approved now, and then adopt it in next week's board meeting, so the city would have it in time to do that. I'm not sure if one, we can meet in that time and cut a budget and do another work session to get it approved before next Thursday.
Madam Chair, board members, we were hoping to have it adopted at your April 23rd meeting. I realize that next week is the fourth Thursday. We have another Thursday in the month of April, but it happens to be the fifth one. So we're, I assumed it was the last one, but it's next week. We could look at it at the Finance Committee meeting next week. We do need it by mid-May at the latest to the city. I think Councilor Gondra's suggestion that look at what his absolute needs are and where he can cut and where he needs to add. There's not a whole lot of fat in that budget, but we also need to look at sitting down with our economists in our budget office and saying, well, if you've got this many vacancies and you had budget for them, realistically, how soon can you fill them? Because it takes time to fill vacancies. We've budgeted positions at 75% or half of a year's budget because of the time it takes to hire them. So we could work through those. That requires detailed effort between the organization and our respective budget offices. I can't speak for the county. I know we've set aside 1.75 million for the city's portion. We could look at that and see what adjustments we can make and what the city council is willing to do in light of the JPA requirement. Are they willing to do that without the county's match? But that's a discussion that we need to have organized between ASCMV and our budget office and the law. Clint's got to get something out of this budget that's more than what last year, because he's got to fill positions or he's got to make adjustments to keep the shelter operating. But we're all in a new day, and our last discussion, well, previous two discussions, we weren't really deep in the COVID pandemic. I can offer to assist in short order. We might have to have a special meeting in early May to adopt the budget rather than adopting it next week. There's a lot going on. for all of us. I mean, Clint, this is what your second day back officially in the office. So not that he wasn't working, he was working, but it's a little harder to work from home than it is to work in the office, as we are all learning. So we can do it. Well, we're going to have no choice. We're going to have to figure a solution somehow, some way, especially in light of the information coming from the county.
So Mr. Thacker, would you, or board members, should we proceed in reviewing this budget, or should we go back to the drawing board?
Now, also, I want to mention that this going forward is all the same information that you got the first meeting you had. We haven't changed any numbers. All we've done is we pretty much added the column saying we got from, you know, this percentage to, or this much money now to this much money we're asking for, so you can see the difference.
Mm-hmm. Talking about pages 8 and 12, or 12, or 13, 14. Are those pages you're talking about, Clint? 12, 13, 14.
Now, I can say, Madam Chair, that Paul Richardson loves to talk, and so we might be here for a long time with his part.
Who loves to talk?
Yeah,
Who?
Paul Richardson,
Oh.
our kennel supervisor. He's a man of many words.
Uh-huh.
I
I know.
So it's up to the board. I'm okay either way. I understand that there's going to have to be some cuts. We were expecting that, honestly, coming in. I don't want to. I mean, what manager, director wants to cut through the budget? I just need a number that we are gearing to or gearing for in order to do that. Things, and it sounds like between, because I know Commissioner Sanchez is on the finance committee, and he can be able to help David and I, and I can bring Mike, and we can work on something there.
Well, that sounds good to me. And I think that David Dollahan also indicated that the directors can get together. Where did I write that? That directors can get together. Is that correct, David? What did you say? Or the budget officers, excuse me. David Dollahan suggested that he agreed with Mayor Pro Tem Gandara that we look at the bare bone needs. Those are my notes based on what he said. And that there could be a meeting between the organization and the respective budget officers from the county, well, respective county and city.
Yeah, and the finance committee meeting is April 21st at 3:30. And so maybe we could have some of the county meet us there at that time as well.
Is that the finance select committee you're talking about? Is that the one you were talking about, David Dollahan? It's a different meeting altogether, right?
Madam Chair, it's the ASCMV Finance Select Committee that
Okay.
Along with Commissioner Sanchez and Councilor Abeta Stuve, along with Clint, we're the four members of the.
Who are the four members? You?
Myself, Commissioner Sanchez, Councilor Abeta Stuve, and Clint as the executive director on the committee.
Okay. So is that how we want to proceed at this point? And then we'll just, I don't know if we should adjourn or suspend this meeting. I don't know what the correct thing, I think we should just adjourn. And then we'll follow up with a meeting after the 23rd to see if we can go back to the drawing board.
And Madam Chair, I agree with your recommendation, but I would do one thing. I would ask Clint and Bernice, because they're working on the agenda and the packet, go ahead and put the agenda resolution on the budget resolution on the agenda for next week. In the event we can get it worked out, I'm not sure, but worst case scenario, it's on the agenda and we can table it and figure out a date-specific meeting for a special meeting in May. So go ahead. My recommendation is to put the resolution on the agenda and see how we can make progress next week. I hate to do
An
that.
agenda, on whose agenda?
On the full board's agenda for next week. We have a board meeting next Thursday
Oh,
morning.
yeah.
So I would include it on the agenda. Not include it.
All right, I can,
Okay, and then if, yeah, it could always be removed possibly.
Or tabled, yes.
Mhm.
Today.
Okay,
So Madam Chair, I move,
is that a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, we'll move to adjourn with the recommendations made. And so we'll proceed with our meeting next week. And we'll see, we'll take it from there.
Thank you, board.
Thank you,
Madam Chair.
board. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe, be well.
Great presentation, Clint. I thought it was good.
It was very good, Clint, very good.